10 minutes to 8 o'clock on this Monday morning. Now, I'm so excited about this. What would it take to be able to retire in your 30s or 40s?
The Financial Independence Retire Early movement has come up with some tips.
Well, MoneyWeb's Inga Lamprecht is here to unpack some of these tips for financial independence. I can't wait to hear them. Inga, good morning.
Good morning.
So I suppose firstly the question is it possible to retire at the age of 45?
I think it is possible. But I would say that it is only possible for a very small number of people, a very small percentage of the population. For most of us, I think it's probably unrealistic. But having said that, I think there's some principles from this movement that you can incorporate in your own financial planning that would be helpful, regardless of when you plan to retire. And also, I think one should also maybe add that people still tend to think about retirement in the sense of, okay, I will reach a point in my life where I'm going to stop working altogether and then sit at home and, I don't know.
Be a person of leisure.
Yeah. But I think whether you're 45 or 65 or 85, we are at a point where people are living much longer and we need to think radically different about retirement. So even if you're 65, I think probably you will still work, even if it's just reduced hours. But yeah, I think this movement obviously is about reaching a point where you're financially independent in your 30s or 40s, and where you would be able to choose or have more freedom around how you spend your time.
What kind of things practically do you have to do to achieve that? I mean, on a month-to-month basis, do you have to increase your savings, for example? Do you have to live a simple life and not have lots of fun and no holidays? What kind of practical things can you do?
So I think the FIRE movement, like you mentioned, they save a big proportion of their salary, sometimes even more than 50%. So you do need to save a substantial amount.
Sorry, is that from gross or post-tax, post-deductions?
So
is that 30% or half of your gross or your net?
Yeah, so it will depend from person to person. But say you would save, usually you would save about 15% of your salary. In this case, you would save 30, 50, even more than of that from of your salary. So that's the one thing. You would also take maybe steps to maybe increase your income outside of work, so to be a bit of a do the hustle, and then also reduce your spending. So live a frugal lifestyle, which doesn't necessarily mean you won't have any fun, but you probably won't be driving the latest SUV. You will probably buy a second-hand car, cash if you can afford it, and you would you would think very hard about the decisions that you make around spending. So for instance, this movement, while say you earn 10,000 Rand a month, for argument's sake, and you see something in the shop and it costs 500 Rand, you would say to yourself, yeah, I can afford it, I earn 10,000 Rand a month. But this movement would tell you, think about this in terms of time. How much time would you have to spend at work to be able to buy this item? And suddenly then it becomes a whole different perspective. Is it is it worth my time to spend that much time at work to be able to buy this? And I think that puts it more into perspective, I think.
Now, Inga, you mentioned that this would apply to a very small percentage of the population, who might be able to do this. Who exactly are we talking about? Are we talking about somebody who is married without kids, or single for that matter? Is this possible for somebody like myself who is married with two small children in school? Would it be possible for someone like me to do that, or not at all? Do I not fall into that category?
I think it's definitely easier if you don't have a family and you don't have children, but I recently interviewed someone, maybe people can have a look at the Financial Blogger's website. His name is Stealthy Wealth, and he does have a small kid. His wife is not working, and he plans to retire at 45, and he started 3 years ago. I think he will be 45 when he retires. He's currently a bit behind target, but I do think that he's well on his way to be able to reach this, and he does have a small kid. So yeah, to answer your question, I think it's definitely higher income earners. I'm not sure us people in the media will be able to maybe
Yeah,
do
probably
that.
not.
But
No, not for me.
yeah,
Whatever,
it's
yeah.
definitely your higher income earners, I think.
I mean, you from a Moneyweb perspective, from a financial journalist perspective, I'm sure you hear a lot about calculating how much money you're going to need when you retire and what kind of formula you can use for that. I mean, when you work for a company, there's a pension fund, and some people you hear a lot about you must top it up by doing your own RA in South Africa. I mean, how do you actually work out how much, how should you be doing it? How much will I need when I
To
retire?
I think so. The FIRE movement, they say you need 25 times your annual expenses to be able to retire. So whatever you spend in a year on expenses, you would need 25 times that. So people who criticize this movement say, but this rule applied when you retired at 65. Surely it can't apply if you retire at 45. But it will vary depending on the person. So some people obviously spend much more money. They maybe spend all of their income, and then you would need to adapt that calculation, of course.
Do you know anybody who's retired at 45? No, I mean, I don't know, somebody's won the lotto, they come from a rich family. Just took a normal, ordinary person, like
Like
you
us.
and me who work and stuff, who's about to retire at 45. Are you aware of anybody?
I'm not aware of anybody, I
didn't
must
think
say,
so.
but maybe I
But the
moving
FIRE
around.
movement, this FIRE in the US is very big. I mean, do they have examples of people who are doing that successfully, coming to a point where they are now sort of financially independent and they choose what they want to do?
Yeah, so there's this one guy in the US who's quite famous. His name is called Mr. Money Moustache. You can have a look at his blog. And people, so he's quite a celebrity, I think, in the FIRE movement. And he retired in his 30s by living very frugally. And I'm sure the blog also makes him a lot of money. So
Yes.
maybe
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah.
way
That's
to
his
go.
plan, part
Another
of his plan.
income
So
stream
many
there.
reasons why the two of us will never
Yeah.
be able to do this.
But I guess the thing about this is that we have to take planning for retirement seriously.
And having started a bit
And
earlier.
starting a bit
Yeah.
earlier. Yeah.
Okay, well, it's possible for some, I suppose, but a nice novel idea, something to work towards. Thanks very much. It's Moneyweb's Inga Lamprecht. She's just unpacking, giving us some tips for financial independence. And if you're able to retire at 45, if you haven't met that love of your life or had children yet,